Hey everyone, my name is Prince, and welcome back to another video discussing Black Ops 6. Now this is actually a video I've been working on since before we knew it was Black Ops 6. So I've actually had to re-record a few bits of this, including this intro. Because not only was this recorded before we knew it was going to be Black Ops 6, this was also recorded before I knew everything that had been going on behind the scenes with Treyarch for the last 4 years. So a lot of the early bits of this video was basically me shitting on Treyarch when they really didn't deserve it. And if you don't know what's been going on for the last 4 years, then just go and watch this video right here. But basically, Black Ops 6 is on the horizon, and everything is pointing to it being good. So seeing as for the first time since Black Ops 4, Treyarch are finally back in action making their own game, I thought it'd be a good idea to basically go over my ideal Black Ops 6 zombies. So I've compiled a list of 27 different things I want to talk about. Now do bear in mind, obviously, this is just my opinion. If you guys disagree, then that's completely fine. And again, a lot of this was recorded a couple of weeks ago at this point, so if I say anything mean about Treyarch that I didn't manage to re-record or edit out, then just ignore me. So with that being said, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and go join both the casual Discord and the COD Zombies unofficial Discord in the description down below. And without further ado, let's get into it. So starting off at number 1, we have the number 1 thing that basically the entire community agrees on. Now this has basically been confirmed by leaks already, but I'm mentioning it anyway. Number 1, we need round-based zombies back. Again, there's been so many leaks basically saying that this is gonna happen that it's hardly even worth talking about, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Because the thing is, I've not actually played a lot of open world zombies, so I can't really comment on whether it's bad or not, but I think the simple fact is, zombies is supposed to be round-based. Open world zombies was a nice idea, but it should never have replaced round-based, because round-based is what COD Zombies is supposed to be. It's what it was originally, it's what got people into it originally, it's what made it unique and fun and interesting, and plain and simple, we need it back. But most of the leaks have basically confirmed that we're getting round-based back anyway, and it doesn't really surprise me, because Treyarch know that we all want round-based back, and you know, they're finally back working on their own game for once. So I'd say that it's pretty safe to say we're gonna see round-based zombies back in Black Ops 6. Now number 2, I literally just wrote make it work, and that was simply because of how unstable Modern Warfare 3 has been. Literally every other post that I've seen on the COD Zombies subreddit has been people complaining about Modern Warship 3 zombies crashing and losing them their progress. But now that I know that Treyarch were basically forced by Activision to make Modern Warfare 3 zombies, I do not blame Treyarch in the slightest for putting as little effort into that mode as possible. And given that Black Ops 6 is their game that they're not being forced to work on by Activision, and that they've been working on it for 4 years, which is more than any other Call of Duty has ever had development time-wise before, I have full faith in Treyarch to make it an amazing game. Number 3, and once again, I cannot believe I'm actually having to say this as a priority point, please start giving us original maps again, and for the love of Dr. Monty's shriveled ballsack, no more remakes. Because for those of you who haven't been paying attention, I'm about to drop a little factoid that is gonna blow your fucking mind. And that's the fact that if you don't count Chaos, because let's be honest, that was kind of more of a weird spin-off zombies that happened to be included in Black Ops 4, we have not had a completely original zombies map since July 12th of 2016 with Gorod Krovi. We have not had a completely original zombies map for 8 years! 8 years of remakes and recycled content over and over and over. Black Ops 4, all 4 maps were remakes. Cold War, every single map was a reused multiplayer map. Vanguard, it was completely the same. We literally have not had an original zombies map since Black Ops 3. And I'm sorry, but that is completely unacceptable. And as for not giving us any more remakes, I think I've made made it evidently clear why that would be an awful idea. What we need right now is original maps again. And at the end of the day, we don't need remakes anymore, because every single map that hasn't been remade already is being remade on Black Ops 3. And that's an entirely different topic that I want to do a whole video talking about. Now, number 4 was replace operators with characters again. Now, since then, thanks to the Vault Edition leaks, we found out that operators are indeed coming back. But because of that, a lot of people are saying, oh, if we've got operators, we clearly won't have characters. But I don't see why people are saying that, because just because we have operators doesn't mean we're not gonna have characters. Because I saw an idea on Reddit a while back that I really liked and I thought could be a really good thing for them to integrate into Black Ops 6 Zombies. And that was a system akin to something like Black Ops 2, where basically we have the main story maps that have characters in, and then we have survival maps and other maps for other game modes that we use operators for. I don't see why they couldn't do something like that. I don't see that as being such a bad idea. And another idea I had, but I don't really think that this one's as likely because I don't really think it's Call of Duty style, is instead of having just operators for these extra maps, have a sort of operator customization system. A system where we can basically design our own character to use in these bonus maps. And we can earn like different outfits and hairstyles and appearances and stuff, maybe from the game or maybe from some sort of season pass, which I'll go into a little bit later. But again, I don't really think that's that likely because that's not really Call of Duty style. But as for the operators thing, just because we have operators does not mean that we're not going to have characters. I'm not saying we will have characters, but frankly, I'd be surprised if Treyarch didn't implement characters back into Zombies again. But I'm just saying that they're not mutually exclusive. You can have operators and characters. And we don't even know, the operators may not even be for Zombies. It may be a multiplayer thing now. The operators may not even be featured in Zombies at all. That in particular may be wishful thinking, but you know, it's a possibility. Moving on, number 5. Fuck custom classes. I should probably have prefaced this video by saying that I've only played up to Cold War and that I've not played Vanguard or Modern Warfare 3. Although, given everything that I've heard about it, I really don't think I'd want to. And I'll admit, when I first played Cold War, I wasn't that pleased with it. But going back and playing it over the past couple of weeks, I've gained a lot of respect for Cold War, and there's actually a lot of stuff that that game did well that I'm going to be talking about a bit later. But one thing that I think is absolutely stupid is the custom classes. Because the idea that you can choose what weapon you spawn in with is completely ridiculous. Because that completely nullifies the point of the wall weapons, the mystery box, literally anything in the map that allows you to get more weapons unless it's a wonder weapon. Because think about it, you can literally spawn in with your favorite weapon, with your favorite attachments every single time. Like seriously, what in the fuck is the point of that? I still personally maintain that the best system we've ever had for weapons was the Black Ops 3 system. So basically what I'd want for a weapon system is the Black Ops 3 system, but more of it. Because Black Ops 3 was obviously the first time Zombies had sort of dedicated unlocks to it. And I think the Black Ops 3 weapon system was great, it just needed more to it. Like maybe you could prestige your weapons when they got to max level, more default Zombies camos, and just stuff like that. But yeah, get rid of custom classes, that's completely ridiculous and it makes absolutely no sense. And speaking of weapons, number 6, remove random attachments. And this sort of ties into the previous point as well, because something that I found really dumb in Cold War was the fact that wall weapons and box weapons had completely random attachments. Random scopes, random weapon attachments, it was just annoying. Do you have any idea how annoying it is to purchase a shotgun off the wall and for it to have the equivalent of a sniper scope on it. Oh wow, dual-wield magnums out of the box. Shame they've got suppressors on that make them weak as shit. And sure, you could re-roll your attachments at the armor machine, but more often than not, they'd still be not what you wanted. And that just goes to show that the Black Ops 3 system was a good system. You pick what attachments you want for your weapon, and those attachments are put on that weapon in the game. But unless you use one of the custom classes, the weapons in the game are never guaranteed to have the attachments that you want. And it's the same with weapon camos. Like, what's the point of earning camos if you can't put them on the weapons that you can buy in the game? So yeah, get rid of all of that. It's pointless and stupid. Number 7, unique weapons. And this is sort of 2 points in one, because the first point that I'd like to make is that, at least to me, all of the weapons in Cold War felt like exactly the same. And surprisingly, I actually think that's something that World at War and Black Ops 1 actually struggled with as well. Because I don't know what it is, whether it's like the similar noises or what, but all of the weapons in Cold War just felt like exactly the same as one another. But if you look back at like Black Ops 2 and 3, all of the weapons felt like so unique from one another. Whether that was the noises they made, the fire rate, how they handled, they all felt different. And that's really all that I ask from weapons, just make all the different weapons unique. But the second point I'd want to make is throw in a couple of unique weapons here and there as well. Weapons that aren't necessarily wonder weapons, but are just unique. Like the crossbow from Black Ops 1, like the flamethrower from World at War. Like, I literally discovered yesterday that Cold War had a nail gun in the box. So literally just give us more weapons like that, and actually make them good, because that nail gun was pretty weak. And as a sort of follow-on from that point, don't just put them in for the sake of being bad weapons that you don't want to see come out of the box, because that's just pointless. Instead, you know, actually make them viable weapons that you can use so that, you know, we can have a bit of fun with unique weapons every now and then. Like, Cold War did a surprisingly decent job at this, more decent than most of the other previous games. I just want them to be better. Number 8. No seasonal level resets and a zombie-specific level-up system. Case in point, Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3, to me, was literally the perfect level-up system. It was simple, it had cool logos to it, and unlike Cold War, it didn't randomly reset after every season. Back when Cold War first came out, I genuinely stopped playing it when I found out that the level reset after every season, because I just think that's completely pointless. What is the point of leveling up if you're just gonna get reset after a couple of weeks? And on top of that, Cold War's level up system was universal. Like, if you were level 30 in zombies, you were level 30 in multiplayer as well. Like, what in the fuck is the point of that? So no, get rid of that, bring back the Black Ops 3 style system, and just make it better. Add more rewards to it, make it more in-depth, but keep it as that system. Number 9, make the zombies more aggressive. Because while I really do think that Cold War Zombies was really fun, I think one of its biggest problems is that it's simply too easy. And that's not just because of everything there is to help you in that game. That's because the zombies themselves are really, really unaggressive. Like, if you get surrounded by 4 or 5 zombies, in previous games, you would have been on your ass before you could even blink. But in Cold War, it genuinely takes you like 4 or 5 seconds to get downed, and that's because the zombies just are not aggressive. And it's not just the regular zombies either, because some of the boss zombies, they just don't do much. Like, looking at Firebase Z, for instance, you have the Mimics and you have the Russian Manglers. Now, in Grod Krovy, the Russian Manglers were pretty decent enemies. They weren't necessarily panzer scary, but they were pretty tough, and their arm cannons could do some pretty good damage. But in Cold War, they're just not tough at all. Like, there's literally never a point where you should actually get hit with their arm cannon because they take like 5 seconds to charge it up. And as for the mimics, they're just fucking disappointments. They pull you in with their tentacles and do like fuck all damage before letting you go again. Like, what the fuck's that about? In the past, when enemies have grabbed you, such as the Pentagon Thief and the Astronaut and the Panzer, it has been devastating for the player. The Pentagon Thief took your weapon, the Astronaut took your perks, and if you found yourself in the clutches of a Panzer, it was basically game over. And then you have the Mimic. It pulls you in, bites you for fuck all damage, and then lets you go again. Like, how in the fuck do you call that a fucking boss zombie? So yeah, plain and simple, make the zombies more aggressive like they were in the older games. Maybe don't make them as difficult as they were in Black Ops 3. I'd say there's got to be a sweet spot somewhere in between Black Ops 3 difficulty and Cold War difficulty. And all of this sort of ties into another point, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Number 10. Rework or just straight up get rid of the fucking ammo boxes. I feel like this was definitely one of the weirder things that Cold War introduced. Like, this just seems like a completely backwards thing to introduce into a zombies game. Because the ability to just buy ammo for literally any fucking weapon you want is way too overpowered. Like, literally one of the core aspects of zombies is keeping your eye on your ammo and looking out for max ammos. But no, in Cold War, you can just hold X on the ammo box and refill your ammo completely. Yes, it can get a bit expensive for, like, wonder weapons and triple pack punch weapons, but given that a lot of zombies drop ammo as well, most of the time, by the time you actually need to buy the ammo box, you have enough for it anyway. It's honestly just a silly, broken system. And if you're not gonna remove it, then at least rework it so it's not that easy to get. Make it so that you craft an ammo box instead, and they're not just littered around the map for free. And for the love of God, make them one use only, don't make them infinite, that's just stupid. Honestly, I think this was probably another thing that was introduced into Cold War because people were complaining that Black Ops 4 was too hard. And I mean, yeah, that's fair enough, but you can make it easier without making it piss easy. Number 11. Remove pointless upgrades. Now, I'll be honest, when I first found out about the whole Ethereum upgrade system in Cold War, I was a little bit skeptical. But honestly, I've actually grown to really like the system, and I think it's a pretty cool idea. Most of the upgrades are pretty cool. I find it cool that you can upgrade ammo mods and the field upgrades. I was a bit on the fence in terms of the perk upgrades, but I think I've come round to the idea, especially considering that some of the upgrades make some of the perks really, really good. Like Deadshot, for instance. Like, that was one of the worst perks ever in COD Zombies before Cold War, and yet the upgrades it received in Cold War made it amazing. But one area of the upgrades that I'm really not a fan of is the weapon class upgrades. Because honestly, out of all the upgrades, I think that category is the one that really doesn't fit. Like, upgrading entire weapon classes just seems a bit lazy? Like, that entire category seems really dull, and I much would have preferred it to have been something like you spend Ethereum crystals to unlock attachments on weapons instead of just upgrading an entire weapon class. Obviously, I mentioned the whole Black Ops 3 weapon system earlier, and I think what could be a really cool idea is if maybe you leveled up weapons like you do in Black Ops 3, and once you got to a certain level, it unlocked the ability to use Ethereum crystals to buy specific attachments. Because while overall I do like the upgrade system, I think it was generally a bit lackluster. Like, back in the day, I obviously didn't play Cold War a lot because of the whole level reset thing that I've already talked about, but I feel like if I had been playing it non-stop, I could have gotten all of the upgrades relatively quickly. Whereas again, going back to Black Ops 3, you really had to put the hours in and grind to unlock everything in that game, because unless you just want to wait and level up all of your weapons before you prestige for the first time, you're basically waiting until until Prestige Master to be able to unlock all of the attachments and get all of your weapons to max level on Black Ops 3, because you've basically got to be max level to unlock all of the weapons. So overall, I like the Cold War upgrade system. I just think it could have had a bit more to it. And I'm actually going to talk a bit more about that when we talk a bit more about perks later on. Number 12, and this is actually the first item on the list where I'm actually saying we should keep something instead of change it or remove it. Keep the armor and the weapon tier system. Now, this could be a controversial one, and I'm honestly not sure about it myself, because some may argue that the armor system and the weapon tiers actually make Cold War a bit too easy. And I can definitely see that, but instead of removing that, I really think that the problem of it being too easy could literally be solved by integrating point number 9 and making the zombies more aggressive. And I gotta be honest, I am a fan of the weapon tier and the armor system. I think it gives us another thing to work towards during the game, which is kind of interesting because all of the other objectives that we've usually had in zombies have been point-based. But obviously with the introduction of salvage, you know, we were slowly working towards getting more armor or upgrading our weapon tier, and I kind of like that, to be honest. Number 13, the point system. Now this is a difficult one for me, and I just sort of wanted to bring it up because honestly, I'm not entirely sure which point system I prefer. The system from World at War to Black Ops 4, where every single hit you make on a zombie, whether it's by a bullet or a knife or anything, gets you points, or the point system in Cold War onwards, where you only get points for actually killing a zombie. There's something satisfying about both point systems, so honestly, I don't really have a preference. If they were to bring back the old point system, I would be happy. If they didn't, I wouldn't really say I'd be that bothered, but this isn't something I'm that bothered about. Number 14, no holding your hand Easter eggs. I miss the days when you hopped into a map for the very first time and you didn't have giant video game markers showing you exactly what to do. Now granted, the map doesn't hold your hand throughout the entire Easter egg, but at the same time, I don't think it should hold your hand at all. And again, I think this might be something to do with the fact of Black Ops 4's difficulty and people complaining about that, so they went to the complete opposite end of the scale and made it way too easy. I'm not against giving the players guidance, but it doesn't have to be through a giant flashing heads-up display marker. Just do it subtly, like in Die Machine when you're about to open up the anomaly and go into the dark ether. Instead of showing giant markers on the 2 buttons that you need to press to activate the anomaly, just have those parts of the consoles lit up brighter than everything else. It's really not rocket science, just please don't hold our hand through these things. Number 15. Keep the built-in quick revive. Honestly, I think this was one of the better things introduced in Black Ops 4, and I think Cold War actually made it better. Because you had the self-revives, which were obviously separate from quick revive, which was an actual perk instead of just a necessity. So that's really all I have to say for that point, but keep that system, that's good. Although I would prefer if the self-revive wasn't just another thing that you crafted, and it was, you know, there was something a little bit more interesting you had to do to get them. And speaking of quick revive, we're gonna move on to number 16. Now this is going to be a little bit of a controversial one because I know that a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions on this point. So just stay with me and don't shoot me, this is just my opinion. But point number 16 is talking about perks. And the system that I would want in the next Zombies game is a 5 perk limit. Again, I know a lot of you don't like the perk limit thing, but just stay with me and I'll explain my reasoning. Now, first off, I want to start off by saying that I think perks in Cold War were very, very good. And the reason for that is because for once, there didn't seem to be any token bad perks. Granted, there were some that were a little bit better than others, but there was no double tap 2.0 versus Deadshot Daiquiri situation. There was no perk that was so outrageously bad that you would never never want to see it, and all of the perks were actually really useful. But one thing I don't like about Cold War's system is the fact that you can just buy every single perk at once. Because if you're even the slightest bit decent at Cold War, and you have every single perk, and you have every single perk upgraded to max, you are so overpowered it is not even funny. And that's why I think the perk limit needs to come back. Because a perk limit is not an inherently bad idea. I love classic zombies from World at War to Black Ops 3, but even I'll admit that the perk system didn't work the best for those games. Because you basically had the 4 main perks that everyone bought and no one ever bought anything different. But now, in Cold War, we have a bunch of different perks that are actually all really good. And there's not really any perks that are so overwhelmingly good that they would outbalance everything else. So I think we are genuinely at a point now where we can reintroduce the perk limit and it would actually be a good thing. Because while obviously, like I said, the original perk system was pretty flawed, the ability to just buy every single perk does make you just a little bit too overpowered. And once again, it ties into another aspect of Cold War being far too easy. So here's what I'm suggesting. Reintroduce the perk limit, but make it 5 instead of 4, and bring back all of the other perks that haven't been introduced into Cold War and everything after it since. Bring back perks like Widow's Wine and Double Tap, but maybe nerf them a little bit. Because if they were introduced alongside all of the perks we have now in the sort of Cold War system, I think they would overbalance all of the others. So maybe nerf them a little bit, and also unmerge the sort of merged perks that we have now. Because that's something that Cold War started to do, and it's not really something I'm a fan of, if I'm honest. The main perks that this applies to is actually Elemental Pop and Tombstone, because the final upgrade of Elemental Pop gives it the Electric Cherry ability, and Tombstone isn't even Tombstone, it's literally Who's Who. Tombstone doesn't even become Tombstone until you get the tier 3 upgrade. So this is what I'm suggesting. Reintroduce the perk limit, make it 5 instead of 4, and reintroduce a bunch of the old perks that we currently don't have in the Cold War style into the same sort of upgrade system that we have for all of the other perks. Because by default, perks like Electric Cherry are pretty weak in comparison to the Cold War perks, but if they can transform Deadshot Daiquiri from one of the worst perks to one of the best, then I guarantee you they could probably do the same with Electric Cherry. Maybe they could make it so when you have Electric Cherry and you melee zombies, they get stunned. And maybe the strong electric burst that kills zombies when you go down with Electric Cherry in the old games could actually be one of the upgrades. And I'm certain even if they separated Tombstone and Who's Who into 2 separate perks, they could probably figure out some decent upgrades in order to make it so that both of them are worth buying. Because I think if you reintroduce every single perk that we've had in previous games but stick to the 5 perk limit and basically make every single perk as good as each other, that would be hands down the best perk system we've ever had. Because if that genuinely was the system, I think I'd find myself buying a different setup of perks every single game. A system that doesn't make the player too overpowered, but also grants them realistic replayability. So yeah, that's my take on what I want the perk system to be like. If you've got a different opinion, that's absolutely fine. Number 17, the Cold War Pack-a-Punch system is good. Now again, this may be a bit of a controversial one, but I personally like the Cold War Pack-a-Punch system. I like the fact that you can keep your weapons stronger for longer. The only thing I'm sort of on the fence about is the ammo mods. Don't get me wrong, I like the ammo mods, but I'm not sure if I'm a fan of you just being able to pick whichever one you want. Because I think the system in Black Ops 3, where you had to keep re-rolling until you got the ability that you wanted, actually fit the mode a lot better. And once again, I think this is yet another thing of them looking at Black Ops 4 and going, that's too hard, let's make zombies way too easy. So keep the Pack-a-Punch system the way it is, maybe retool the ammo mod thing so it's random like it was in Black Black Ops 3. I don't know, I wouldn't really be fussed either way, I'm just sort of sharing my opinions on the matter. Although one thing I would like to add, I would like to see the actual Pack-a-Punch animation coming back. You know, when you actually put the weapon in the Pack-a-Punch machine instead of just pressing a button and suddenly your gun is Pack-a-Punched. I don't really like that from Cold War, so yeah, definitely bring back the animation. It makes the reveal of the Pack-a-Punch camo a lot cooler as well. Number 18, keep crafting. I personally think that the whole salvage and crafting system in Cold War was a really cool idea. And that was actually one of the bits of Cold War that I actually think was really well balanced. Because it's not like you could just get a bunch of scrap really easily, really quickly. You actually did have to save up. And all of the equipment was pretty well balanced in terms of price. So yeah, definitely keep that. Although having said all of that, I wouldn't say no to buildables coming back as well. That was another aspect of zombies that Cold War sort of got rid of. And I definitely think you can have crafting and buildables at the same time. So yeah, buildables back would be pretty good as well. And also maybe take out a few things from the crafting as well, like that mini Gersh device grenade. And also get rid of all of the score streak shit, like the airstrikes and stuff, because that doesn't belong in zombies. Number 19, keep the field upgrades. Again, another really cool part of Cold War that was balanced really well. I think the field upgrades were really balanced, they were really well integrated, and I would be happy to see them again in a future zombies game. Number 20, and this is a bit of a questionable one that I'm a bit on the fence on, but I thought I'd share it anyway. Get rid of the minimap. And I think once again this fits again into the whole making Cold War a lot easier to compensate for Black Ops 4 being a lot harder. Because in Cold War they literally gave us every single tool possible to survive. But the thing is, I think the problem with the minimap is, while it's obviously useful, not only does it make things a little bit too easy, I think it also breaks immersion a little bit. And this sort of ties into what we were talking about earlier with replacing operators with actual characters. Because in the old games, the HUD was simple. You didn't have a compass and a minimap and all of that other bullshit. You just had the basic heads-up display. You had the round number, you had perks, you had your points, and you had your ammo. That was basically it. And I think a return to that would be very much appreciated. Especially if we do end up going back to characters, because if you really think about it, it doesn't really make sense for us to have like a mini-map and a compass and everything, because it's not like the people we're playing as are like cybernetically enhanced so that they can see all of this shit in their vision. They're just regular soldiers, so they shouldn't really have all of this stuff, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'd say generally probably get rid of the mini-map, if only because number one, it breaks immersion, and number two, it does make it a bit too easy. Also, for another thing about the heads-up display, definitely get rid of those jarring points notifications in the middle of your fucking screen, because that is so unbelievably immersion breaking. I don't need to know that I got 90 points for getting a play count kill. I know I got a play count kill because I killed it! And speaking of HUDs, number 21, bring back unique heads-up displays. In my opinion, the games that did heads-up displays the best in zombies were Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3 because it had a really well-balanced HUD with Gobblegums and everything, and it didn't overpower your HUD. And Black Ops 2 because every map had a unique heads-up display. Well, actually, I don't think it was every map, but Mob had a unique one, Buried had a unique one, Origins had a unique one, and I want more of that. That was so creative, and what I found really weird about Black Ops 3 is that they started to do the same thing with Shadows of Evil, because they had a unique HUD for Shadows of Evil, and then they had a unique HUD for the Giant, but then they just stuck with the HUD they had for the Giant throughout the rest of Black Ops 3, which I think is a real shame, because I think a HUD based off of the Eisendrache, Zetsubou, Garrod, Revelations, I think unique HUDs based on all of them would be really, really cool. But one thing I would like to mention in terms of heads-up display is the health bars, because that was a new thing integrated into Cold War, and I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like it. I'm not necessarily saying I prefer it to the way it was originally, with the zombies just being zombies. And honestly, I think the reason it fits with Cold War is because there's so many other things that break immersion. It feels a lot more, I guess you could say, arcade-like. So I'm not really sure about the health bars, if I'm honest. Maybe we keep it for the boss zombies and just get rid of it for all the regular zombies. But if I'm being honest, I think if we're gonna return to the original style of, like, characters and a minimized HUD, I think the health bars probably need to go. Number 22, and now we're getting into stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be in there, but I think would be a good addition. But number 22 is difficulty levels. And I believe this was actually something that was actually integrated into Black Ops 4. I didn't play much of Black Ops 4, but I distinctly remember that being a part of it. And I think, honestly, that's a pretty good idea. Reason being, I'm sure a lot of people enjoy Cold War because it is a lot easier than all of the other games. And I'll be honest, you know, I have a lot of fun playing Cold War. That's not to say I don't enjoy playing the older games as well, but I do enjoy Cold War because I can sort of turn my brain off and I don't really have to concentrate as much. And this sort of ties in with what I was saying earlier about aggressive zombies. Maybe we could have separate difficulty levels so that there's a difficulty level that sort of mimics how zombies used to be, and there's a difficulty level that mimics how zombies is now. I think that would be a good mechanic, and it would definitely be helpful for, you know, pleasing a wide variety of players. Number 23, unique Pack-a-Punch attachments. Now, this is actually something that hasn't really been in zombies since Black Ops 2. But back in the old days, when you would upgrade weapons, you would actually get an attachment on certain weapons. Certain ones that come to mind would be the shotgun underbarrel attachment for the AUG in Black Ops 1, and the grenade launcher on the M16 in Black Ops 2. And I think these are really good ideas, and they're really creative as well. And something that actually reinforced me to make this point is that a month or so ago, I was actually playing the Black Ops 3 custom map, Leviathan. And Leviathan actually brought back the Pack-a-Punch attachments because I had the AUG, and it actually had the shotgun underbarrel, and it was so good! So honestly, I think that'd be another really cool thing they could bring back. Not for every weapon, obviously, but just for some weapons. Just have some creativity with it. Maybe it's something that you could unlock with the third Pack-a-Punch upgrade. Now, number 24 was going to be Gobblegums, but thanks to the Vault Edition leaks, we know they're coming back. If you want to hear my full thoughts on the Gobblegums coming back in Black Ops 6, then just go and watch this video. But long story short, I'm all for it, and I'm very happy and excited to see them back in zombies. Although I would like to make the point that because we have Gobblegums back, Treyarch are probably either making the zombies more aggressive, as I wanted in an earlier point, or they're removing some of the other abilities that we have in the Cold War system, because otherwise it would be way too easy. But yeah, again, we don't really know a lot about the sort of systems in Black Ops 6 yet. I guess we'll have to see what effect Gobblegums has on it. Number 25, and this may also be a bit of a controversial one, a battle pass with actual good shit. Now, I'm not necessarily against the idea of season passes. I think it's a pretty clever idea, and it is actually good when done right. But honestly, looking at the season passes we've gotten since Cold War, I don't think that there's anything in those season passes that would make me want to buy them. And that's because it just feels like a Call of Duty season pass, not a zombie season pass. If I were to design a season pass for zombies, I would have weapon camos, obviously, but I would include skins for the actual characters. Like, say, for instance, we had the ability to play as Eddie, I would have skins for Richtofen from the past games. Like, I would have a skin of Ultimus Richtofen, I would have a skin of Primus Richtofen, I would have a skin of Great War Richtofen, just stuff like that. I would have customizable appearances for perks, I would have customizable jingles for perks, customizable perk icons, just stuff like that. stuff to make it feel like an actual zombie season pass. Because if they genuinely introduced a season pass that had stuff like that in it, I'd buy it instantly. And like I said earlier about the whole thing about the potential of actually customizing our own characters to play in non-story maps. You could have stuff in the season pass to customize your character with for the non-story maps. So yeah, if they had a season pass like that, I think that'd be absolutely amazing. Number 26, and this also ties in with the whole customizable operators thing, bring back unique side modes like in Black Ops 2. Grief, Turned, and Survival deserve to make a comeback because they were awesome. And I think it could help please newer players and older players together. Because for newer players who are perhaps a bit more interested in the season pass aspect, there could be challenges to do with these specific game modes. Like say if Turned was brought back, there could be a challenge to like last 30 seconds as a human in Turned. Maybe not something that difficult, because I remember playing Turned and I remember how difficult it was to survive as a human. But I think the side modes were a really unique and fun thing, and I really think it deserves to be brought back. And finally, number 27, and this is definitely more of a personal one, because this is something that if it did happen would cause me to lose my fucking mind. Number 27, bring back Victis! Because obviously earlier I talked about characters returning, and while there are some of the Cold War era characters that could definitely make an appearance as playable characters, like Weaver and Elizabeth Grey and even Samantha and Eddie, it would be good to see some returning characters, and basically the only returning crew that we could possibly get is Victis. We're not going to get our original Primus and Ultimus crew back because apart from Eddie they're all dead. And every other crew throughout our zombie storyline thus far is basically dead, apart from possibly Victis. Now, a lot of people are saying that Victis are dead because they were in the Dark Ether for so long, because time spent in the Dark Ether is longer than time spent in the real world. But honestly, I definitely think that Treyarch could pull something out of their ass to get the Victis crew back again. Obviously, I know it's not that simple, you know, they'd have to get the voice actors back again, but I am telling you, if we got a trailer for Black Ops 6 Zombies and it featured the Victis crew, I would lose my mind. And it's hilarious because back when the Victis crew were originally introduced, literally everyone hated them. But nowadays, I'd say that the community would probably be pretty happy to see these guys back again. Again, not saying they're gonna come back, but if they did, that would be amazing. I've also seen a couple of people saying that Scarlet Rhodes from the Chaos storyline is apparently in one of the Black Ops 6 trailers, but if Treyarch are bringing back characters, I severely doubt that they're going to bring back the Chaos crew, simply because Chaos was a major part of Black Ops 4's bad reception, and I think considering they definitely need to earn back the trust of the community, I think that'd be the last thing they'd want to do. Also, number 1, I'm pretty sure most of the Chaos crew actually died at the end of their story in Black Ops 4. I've also seen some stuff saying that apparently Chaos was retconned into being part of the Dark Ether storyline. I don't know, but anyway, going back to Victis, I don't think it's impossible to get them back. Again, it's not as simple as just bringing them back, you know, they'd have to get the voice actors back again. But a lot of people have actually been theorizing that Dr. Monty is coming back, because obviously Gobblegums are coming back, and Gobblegums were made by Dr. Monty. So considering that this is the first game that Treyarch have been able to dedicate themselves to fully since Black Ops 4, if there was ever going to be a game where we would see a return to form for zombies, this would be that game. So yeah, everyone, those were my hopes for Black Ops 6 Zombies. I'm sure you could probably tell due to the way I talked about some of these points, but back when I initially recorded this, I had very little hope for Black Ops 6. And that's because back then, obviously, we didn't have all of this really positive information, and I didn't know about Activision basically forcing Treyarch to make these games for the past 4 years. But right now, I am really hyped for Black Ops 6. And the Black Ops 6 reveal is actually happening this Sunday, and I will be live streaming it. So if you want to see my live reaction to Black Ops 6's reveal, then make sure to subscribe and go join the Discords down in the description down below. And yeah, everyone, I will see you on another video or stream very soon. Goodbye, everyone.